Okay, so from the top, obviously it's dusty. It's been in the shop for a while, but we've got a bit of the appliques missing there. So we'll have to replicate that. And we've got a beautiful long oak door. And the glass isn't broken, but the glass is also not original. If you look inside here, it doesn't really fit into the frame. And it's also way too thick. So we're gonna be putting in a new piece of glass. Inside you can see someone's found some interesting paper. I don't think it's really helping the situation. Brick lined paper. So we're gonna be removing that and just returning them to wood shelves. The other problem with this cabinet is all the hardware is broken. This hinge has a pin missing. The other one does as well. So it's barely hanging on. And this down here is a door that somebody made to replace one that's gone missing. You can see it's not very beautiful. And both of these hinges are replacements and not really doing what they're supposed to. As well, the interior of this is needing a little bit of help. By some miracle, we still have our original hardware and the drawer is intact, and out of all of the other things, it's in pretty good shape, but the drop down for desk is looking pretty bad because it's completely broken off. So we do have that piece down here, and it's got a split, and that piece just broke right out of this breadboard type. And we do have this little escutcheon, so that's good, but this thing is going to need quite a bit of help. So apart from all of that, I don't know if you guys have seen these things before, but what do you notice is missing? I give you 5 seconds. A complete mirror is supposed to be here. So we're going to be making an entire mirror frame with the same profile as this piece and adding some of the appliques that we're going to copy to make it look like it's supposed to be there. We're going to be adding a beveled mirror, and you can see from the gap here, that's kind of where it used to sit in. So that piece is completely missing, and we're going to remake it. We're also going to make a new door. And we're just going to go through this whole thing and give it a good refinish and get it shining back to what it's supposed to be. There's a lot of other issues, but I don't know if I can talk about them all in this intro. We'll just have to go through them and fix them. So first things first, let's get it apart and get to work. Okay, so I've got this thing totally ripped down to the bare carcass. Back panel, cubby hole, everything's out. It's pretty wobbly, but these cabinets do rely pretty heavily on the back panel for stability. Nonetheless, I think I might take it apart and re-glue these joints. They're just mortised into the side panels. You can see through all the grime here. So when I move it back and forth, you can see some movement in there. So they should be a little tighter, and it is starting to gap downstairs here. Okay, so I've got the whole thing broken down to pieces. Looks like it was painted at some point. I've still got remnants of white paint. This is under the escutcheon here. They didn't take it off for stripping, so it was just there. You can see it along the edges of stuff too. They didn't take everything apart, so there's a lot of gunk and stuff in the edges. They did an okay job of stripping, but when you don't take stuff apart, it's kind of impossible to get it off I got my nephew here, Hunter, and he's peeling off this wretched brick stuff. And you found paint under the other one, right?
Yeah, I put them over there.
Right over here. So one of the shelves here looks like it still has that paint on it. Now we can just go through each piece. I did do some labeling of where stuff goes. And we did have some casualties, so we'll need to do a little bit of glue ups on everything. So you can take a close look here at this applique now too. We're gonna get this all off. If you look straight at it, do you notice anything? If I put a straight edge here, this isn't straight, but you see that this is lower than this one. So this has been taken off and repositioned. So this here is lower, this is higher. The gaps in between this thing and this thing are different. So we're gonna reposition all of that properly because that doesn't look good either. And we're also gonna be taking a print of this and replicating it for the mirror frame. So that'll be really cool to make a mold and another piece like that. Okay, so I've got this backboard on, drawers over there and clamps. I'm gonna strip these applique pieces while they're on here, just because it's easier for them to be hung on to while it's here. And then we'll take them off. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of white paint coming out from underneath these appliques, so I'm going to take them off now that I've got most of the finish stripped off, so that I can just clean up underneath them and clean them up too, because that just looks messy. And they'll probably break because most of them are broken already. And oak appliques, in my experience, are really super tough to keep in one piece. Just try to get right beside the nail and pop it up as best you can. So yeah, super huge mess underneath there. You know, that really doesn't work. And then also on the back of these guys, why it wasn't being glued down properly. It's a nice piece though, I didn't realize it was all one. Kind of trying to think of what I'm gonna do on the mirror, if I want to turn it or do a little bit different of a way, but we'll put that aside and clean it up. And get all of these guys off, hopefully in one-ish piece. There we go. This one was missing a piece, and then also one fell off here. This piece here, we've got this leaf missing, and then we've got this leaf missing on this one. So we're gonna have to remake a couple pieces on this one. go. So, just gonna pull a couple of the nails that were left in there. And we'll just finish stripping the rest of this off of here. Okay, so I've got these guys repaired and I just have them stuck still to the little backer boards. So I'm gonna do a silicone putty mold of these pieces because I want to replicate these appliques for the mirror frame that we're making. So just got a little bit of epoxy putty filling some of the areas that are missing and just remaking some of the pieces here just so I can make a mold. So once those are dry, I can mix this stuff up and make a nice little mold so we can kind of bring the same design over to our new pieces. Okay, so I've got this little drawer that had quite a few issues all glued up last night. So I'm just taking all these clamps off. This one side here was really broken out. So I'm gonna saw this off and add some wood to it. The other pieces, we just re-glued a couple parts and the drawer bottom, of course. The other big issue that this drawer had was someone had glued it up really crooked and then decided to sand it off very crooked so it fit back into the drawer opening in the little secretary. So if we look at the opening here, we've got a lot of room on the sides. It's very crooked. And just looks really quite horrible. So what I'm going to be doing is taking this, just see here how bad it actually is. That front there, when you look at a straight edge. So I'm going to be cutting this right off and squaring it up, and I'm actually going to just be putting a piece of wood, kind of like a trim piece on each edge. So it'll give it a little bit more character, but also straighten out this front because this just looks terrible in there. I can't stand looking at that. So let's just cut this off and then I'll add some nice little, maybe darker wood to the pieces. Maybe that'll look cool. Okay, so I've got little end pieces. Just gonna do something like that, cross grain, kind of as like a little trim piece. It's pretty much the only thing we can do other than, you know, veneering the whole face. Could I make a whole new drawer? Yes. Do I want to? No. Okay, so we'll get the rest of the drawer going. That's basically how it'll look. I left them kind of fat so we can sand them off after. So the other problem, and probably why they had to sand that door or that drawer crooked, is this piece has been re-glued at some point. And you can see here, this is not even in the groove, and there's glue kind of globbed down everywhere in this piece. So I'm gonna get a heat gun and try to take this apart so we can straighten this out. It's making this piece here kind of bow. There's a couple of nails that have missed, obviously, just because they're not really where they're supposed to be. And yeah, and then the front here you can see there's a big gap before it meets the frame. These should all be nice and flush at the front. And it's just kind of sitting in glue off to the side of the groove here. So not very nice looking. Let's get this apart. Okay, so I've got all of those pieces taken apart. I'm just stripping the glue off. We'll have to refinish all these little pieces. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get working on the panel, the drop front on the desk. Yeah. So I'm just gluing up this side that split when I took the cabinet apart. And you can see here a couple of sticks, pretty beat up. These are what used to be the feet. There used to be probably an insert in there with some wheels. They're pretty beaten up. So I'm gonna actually take these off and replace them because I don't think that they're gonna hold the weight of the cabinet very well. They're all kind of rotten on the bottom. This one's loose and it's been screwed on there. So we'll replace these, put some nice blocking in later so we can attach some feet and protect the base of this cabinet, because this foot here is already very chewed up and in bad shape. And these pieces are starting to fall off, the carvings, and this one's missing already here. So we'll just glue another block on here and replace these actual supports for the feet. Okay, so I've got this thing laminated back together. All the clamps are off. So I'm just scraping off some glue, and I put some glue and sawdust in this foot. So I'm gonna sand everything down with 100 grit because it's pretty gross in here, and get it all cleaned up. Okay, so I'm working on these backboards that were in pretty rough shape. You can see all the ends are split and there's lots of cracks, mostly on the ends. So what I've done is mixed up a glue and sawdust mixture and squished it into the holes. This is the after, so I just sanded off after. These are all cracks and the holes where the nails used to be. So obviously we'll have to drill new holes for stuff, but that at least puts everything back together and makes it usable again. Would it be easier just to make new boards? Yes. Am I going to do that? No. So I'm just going to fill in each crack and each nail hole, and then I will put a little clamp on it just to get a little bit of pressure to squish it back together. So it does actually glue the cracks back together while filling the holes. Try not to leave too much of it on the surface because I do have to sand it off. And do it on both sides. It's a very sticky mixture, so it works that way. The other thing about these boards, they have had some water damage in the past, so I'm just going to put across the face of the board something just to flatten it out with the clamps. It's not going to get completely flat, but just a little bit of help. And then we'll just put a clamp across to squish the joints back together a little bit. Very gentle pressure is enough. And we'll just leave it like that for a day because the stuff does take a little while to dry. So I've been working on this breadboard piece, the drop down for the desk. The crack I've just filled in with a piece of veneer and some glue. It's shrunk over the years, so we're not going to bring that back together. Just going to fill that gap with some oak veneer. So that's done. And I've been working on this piece here. The top piece had a big chunk of wood out of it that they still had, but it wasn't fitting very well because it had been glued before. So we actually ended up putting in another piece, you can see on this end here, and then veneering the whole front face of the surface so you just can't tell that that was replaced there. And then on the back side we had that big repair with the wood missing. We still have to put in the other mortise for the hinge, but we're going to do that after it's all together. So then I just worked on cutting the mortises for putting it back together. So we've got those all cut out now. There's kind of a piece left here and half of a piece left here, so we kind of had to make it work for both of those. A little bit of a weird fit, but I think we've got it now. So I'm just going to glue it together with carpenter's glue. And you might wonder, where are my glue bots? They're just over there. I have to go pick up some more Titebond. So I'm just using some glue that my dad had here left, which is just fine. Carpenter's glue, same stuff. This is an important piece. It holds the hinges for the entire top, so it needs to be strong and the joints need to be good. So I have it fitting pretty tightly. And now we'll just pop it down onto the tenons. Okay, so I've got all these appliques fixed and they're here on these boards. I'm gonna make a couple of molds to replicate them using this silicone 2-part mold. So you're just gonna take equal parts of both and knead them together until you got one color. Just gonna go over that whole surface. As long as there isn't a break in the putty, you'll be able to fill it up with the resin later. A little bit thin there, so I'll add some. There. So I'll have to do 2 of these because I need a left and a right. So I'll do this one as well. Okay, so I'm just stripping the drop down from the desk. You can see under those escutcheons there is quite a lot of crusty white paint there that, you know, we'll be able to get that all off of there now with the stripping process. And then also you can see our repair here, our new piece, looking good. There's a little bit that I have to fill right here. I made my piece a little bit short on my shoulder there, so I'll just have to put some epoxy putty in there. But everything else is looking good. So we'll get this, this is the last piece, I think, for stripping. Get this all off of here and then sand it down. Okay, I've just finished stripping this breadboard piece here, and I noticed this shadow. And as the music suggests, there's something here. And it's missing. We're gonna have to put that back. All right, so I've got all these pieces pretty much sanded up to 180, and I'm gonna stain the panels before I glue the whole thing back together because it can be kind of messy with the glue getting everywhere, and then it won't take stain if there's glue on the wood. So I'm using a stain called Puritan Pine by Gowdy. It's a little bit lighter of kind of a golden oak color. I'll show you here. It's looking really nice. It's quite a traditional color. It'll look really great on this piece. It does have a little bit of black in it, but also a lot of nice warm golden tones. And this is our repair here to that big piece that was missing out of the side. So we'll see how that stains up too. I'm just picking up that excess stain with the side of my brush and moving it around. That's how I choose to use the brushes to do the stain. Just uses as much of the stain as possible. And that looks pretty good. You can see the patch looks pretty good too here. Kind of lining up. We'll do a little bit of work. Looks like there's some glues left right there. Some stuff. Even that out a bit, but it is looking really good. So that's the color we're going to go on the whole thing. So I'm going to stain up the rest of these panels, and we'll get to gluing this cabinet back together.
I would say that most of the music that we play on the show has next big thing potential. So I'd like to send you home
weekdays starting at 3:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Music. CBC Listen.
in the music of the 19th century, changing key, moving from one key to another, was not only to signify excitement, it carried a number of different emotional messages.
Alrighty, so we've got it all glued up, squared up, clamped up, looking good. Always take the most amount of your time getting your glue ups nice and straight. So you can see I've got a couple of cross clamps going to square up the cabinet. The back panel will do that and keep it there, but I don't want to put the back panel on right now. I want to finish it separately. So a little bit of the high glue squeezing out I'll have to clean up. Had to putty these nail holes after the fact and all that stuff, but the stain up just saves all those joints from getting glue soaked and not taking stain later, so that'll help it look a lot better. I've got a couple of legs to make for the inside there so that we can get this cabinet off of its little skinny feet. So I'll make those and glue those on while it's sitting here, but basically I'm just gonna let this sit overnight while the glue sets up, and I'll clean up some hardware here. I found some hinges in the junk drawer, and they are going to work for the new door and for the replacement of the other ones. All right, so working on putting the appliques back on this piece now that I've got the molds made. But if you look here very closely at the profiles, you'll notice a nice rounded curve, a little bit of a hump straight up. This has got a hump here, another hump, and then another hump. It looks pretty bad. The other thing that, if you notice, this dip here is farther down than this dip here. So Something about this just does not look right, so we're gonna take a template of the whole thing. Okay. So if I'm looking at this, I like this curve a lot more than this weird curve here. So I'm gonna try to copy this side onto this side, because I think I can take off a little bit more here and then go deeper with this dip here. But I'm gonna fold it in half after I cut it out. And then I'll have my template that I can stick back on the piece, and I'll know what I have to take off. Okay, so there you can see I've got the template. I wouldn't have had to make both sides, but I just want to see, I did this so I could see how different the two were from each other. And also to make sure that I had enough on this side to do this pattern. So I'm just going to fold it right in half now.
To bring a motion before City Council for a pilot project to allow
fresh fruits and vegetables, but I think also some people are putting off for the occasion.
Baby boomers are aging, and we need long-term care beds increased hugely and stuff. This would take some of the pressure off the emergency fund. There's many, many people with water.
crisis. We know that we're also in the midst of an opioid epidemic, and so that's a new one.
Wiretap.
Maybe I will give that a try.
Stop the bridge.
Able to sort of take up and move forward from there.
The police service is also celebrating 50 years of women in the ranks. Bretzi says there are many challenges ahead with the new job, including serving as a role model for young women. At 2 minutes after 1 o'clock, it's 2 degrees in Regina, 3 degrees in Saskatoon. This is CBC News. It's day 5 of the negotiated pause in the Israel-Hamas
All right, so I've got everything in the booth and I'm gonna give it a coat of lacquer. I wanna get these back panels sprayed and tinted before I put everything together. And then I can make the door and the mirror frame, which go in this groove here and down there. So I wanna tint these panels too because it's so much easier to spray, especially inside here and everything when there's an open cavity. So I'm gonna get those all sprayed first and then we'll do the rest of the carpentry after and then just match it up. It's looking pretty good though. We've got everything cleaned up. I also decided to stain in here because you do see that when you open the door. We've got our new legs, nice beefy legs on there, so it's got good sturdy base to stand on. So I'm just gonna use a darker, kind of a really dark walnut tint to get everything going. And yeah, get this thing under some lacquer and some color. Alrighty, so we've got the tint. You can see it's a lot darker on the cabinet and 2 coats of lacquer like we did on this door. and everything else. So if you remember, or maybe I didn't show you, these are the original colors of these back slats. I didn't strip them. This is just coated over with lacquer again. And so this is the original color. That was the only part of the cabinet where the original color was left. So you see that golden kind of shine through with a darker overlay of more black on top. That's why we started with that lighter stain. So you can see that lighter pitch and then the darker tones over top. So we're getting that look, but it is quite a bit different than when we stained it. So that's kind of cool. Back to the original color. We've got the cubby hole, which is always tricky to do. Oh, you know guys, this is my favorite song. You tell me what it is. From my old shop radio. If you can tell me that song, the name of that song, you're my best friend. Anyways, so we're just gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna sand it down and give this cabinet the final coat so that we can go ahead and put those back panels on and work on fitting new parts. Okay, so if you remember, we repaired this piece. Before I finish it, I need to cut this mortise for the second hinge. So how I'm gonna get the placement for that is I'm gonna reinstall this piece into the cabinet. Just temporarily. Do at least 2 screws on each. And then we'll take this one over to the cabinet on the other side so we can get this placement for this guy. We'll just do one there, and we'll keep one here. Go grab the door. Oh, I put it on the wrong side. Just a second. All right, so I've got all those mortises perfect now and fit. The only other problem is the door doesn't fit. We've lost some inches in the years and with sanding. So we are needing to add back about 1/8 of an inch there. So I've got a little strip of wood glued. This door works, the stop works as the door kind of comes up and it gets jammed in this piece, which is slanted underneath here. So it kind of just fits into that piece, and then there's a lock that comes in to hold it in. So we'll let that dry, and then I'll need to stain that piece again and tint it in. But we're figuring out all those things that we need to do before we get the final coats on these pieces, so I don't have to worry about that. So that's good to go. I still need to order a stay because hers was broken. So a piece that holds up this panel nice and flat. And I do need to order some shelf pins as well because these were all missing. But other than that, everything's going to plan. So we're just gonna keep working on the finish after that's dry so I can get this stuff together. Okay, so I've got this thing working. So when you pop it out, sorry, and you put it back in, we've got our piece there. You can see it's slanted. So when you pop it in, there's just kind of a friction fit, and it's a nice even fit right there. And the bead looks okay at the end here. So I'll just give that a little color, and that piece is ready. So we've got our appliques in the works here, and I've just got the other 2 drying. So pretty good match here. Just gonna put these on the piece before they get any darker. But the other 2 pieces will look good. Just kind of did a couple of wood texture things. But you can see it's, it's a clear resin piece. So we can put these on. It's gonna be a little different. And I want to tint this first because these are going to be darker before they go on. And I'll do the final touch-ups when everything's together. I'm just going to be putting the appliques on this piece and they'll stay on the mirror. I think it'll be too much if I also put them on the mirror, or sorry, the mirror over here and the door. I think that's too much. So we'll just leave them as kind of on here where they were missing before and up on that little back piece. That'll be enough, I think.
So do you hunt between harvest
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm looking for something.
When you get to the complexity of
you made it.
and the final of the subsurface mineral public offering is
Alrighty, so you saw me working away on this piece. My dad gave me the idea to just repair this stay because these are hard to find. So we found a piece of metal that we had in the drawer. I'll show you what we started with. Just had a bunch of brass plates. Where did they go? This is our beautiful junk drawer. Welcome to the land of junk. There we go. Started with one of these guys and used this center hole here and just cut it down with a hacksaw. Very primitive work here. And cut out the shape of the old one and put in the rivet that we saved from the old one and shaped it all up to go. So that's a nice way to save a piece of hardware if you just can't find something. And my dad's done lots of that stuff over the years. So this piece has got a lot of work. We ended up having to put that piece in up here. You can see we've got it all glued in and stained. And now when we close this, it just has a nice little friction fit, which is really nice. And we've got that hinge mortise finished, and I cleaned up the other ones. These aren't the screws I'm gonna be putting in. I'm just doing it they're easy to take in and take out. And they're not too big, so they don't wreck the holes. So yeah, now we can take this piece off. The last thing that this thing is gonna need is these appliques that I've been working on here. So these need to be colored like that and put onto the piece, and then we can finish up all of that staining. So much work. All right, so the finishing is done on this piece, and I want to put the back panel on now. So if you remember, we repaired these pieces so they no longer have the nail holes in them because we pretty much filled everything. So I'm going to pre-drill because this is thin, solid wood, and it will crack. And I'm also going to drill not where the old holes were, just to get some fresh wood and relieve that area that was cracked without having a nail in it. So these guys, I left the nail holes in, so we're just gonna pop these up with some nails, and the rest of them kind of sit in the groove. So this guy goes here. I think I probably have to put in this piece here on the back first because this kind of goes around it and attaches to the back. So that like that, and then this has got kind of a little cutout mortise that pulls that back on a little bit better, just like that. So I'm going to drill holes in all these panels, get this attached, and it's starting to look really good. And I'm kind of like, I don't want to show you guys how good it looks right now because then you won't be able to be excited at the reveal. But we still have to make 2 more pieces, the mirror and the door. So I kind of am gonna put this to the side and show you those pieces as we make them, and then do the reveal at the end so you don't get some teasers. All right, so we're starting on the mirror design here, and I've been drawing and figuring some stuff out. It's gonna be a pretty big mirror, and we're gonna do a beveled mirror in here. So we're going with 3-inch stiles and rails, and the top design is gonna, this is the back panel, this guy right here. And I've just grabbed the profile because we're gonna kind of have the mirror frame wrap around that piece. And then, because I don't wanna copy this design too much, I'm going to use these guys. I'm gonna make them a little bit thinner. And then steal this again in here just to give it a little bit of difference. And then it's just gonna curl around that back panel, come to the same kind of point, and then again, copy that over here. And then these edges leading into the mirror, we're going to copy again, because copying is the way to get it better, and matching this profile right here on the edges so that it kind of works with this door. Everything needs to kind of throw back to each other so it looks like it's supposed to be there. So I found some old wood here, old oak, and I'm gonna cut out some pieces for this. I'm going to use dowels to put the frame together. So we'll just basically be cutting everything flush and then putting in the dowel joints. And then cutting this curlicue piece and just kind of making it fit and working it so that it looks like it's supposed to be there. Okay, so I've got these cut out, and now I'm moving on to the decorative piece. So I'm just gonna confirm my design and then transfer it onto here. I will be running this through the planer, so it'll look a lot better, but I'm gonna get it all cut out first. Got one side jointed for our dowel joints. It's a little bit crazy, but I think it's gonna work out great. Okay, so now that I've tweaked this profile, you can see that it's gonna fit right into the piece on, Dad will do it for me. Thanks, Dad. It'll fit right into the profile of that with a little bit of space when the whole thing's together. And so I've copied that onto a piece of paper here. And so I'm gonna flip this and put it on the other side so we can copy it exactly. And it won't look like that because that looks really weird with one big side. Or is it cool? What do you think, Dad? So I ended up doing a crazy design. I don't know if you guys have seen a lot of these cabinets, but a lot of them have one-sided designs and they kind of flow into the other piece. So I thought of just doing the regular 2-sided, same looking thing. I would make it a little fun and just kind of bring that design from the other piece with the peak into this. So it looks like we are ready for glue up. I've got all my joints marked. So I'm just going to pop a couple dowels in each, glue it together, and then we can finish. I'm gonna sand this a little bit more before I put it in, but we can finish getting it glued up. And I'm gonna put that router profile in here after and finish the corners with a chisel. And then it'll just be rabbiting out the back with the router as well for the mirror. So we're getting there. Till 4:30? Oh yeah. Yeah, you were there for like 2:30ish. Alrighty, so we've got this mirror frame pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna add these little appliques. I think I'm gonna do something like that. Kind of something like that, just to add a little bit of interest. Not 100% sure if I want it like that or maybe coming into the piece like that. Not sure. And because this is off-centered from the mirror, I'm not gonna add anything in the middle, just to kind of give it that look. So I've got the edge routed here and the back also routed with the groove for the mirror. Glass and mirror are ordered, just did that. So now it's time to think about that door. So here's, if you remember, the ugly door that was on there. And although ugly, it does fit well. So I'm gonna kind of use it for measuring in a template, and then also check with the cabinet again too. So I think I'm going to do a breadboard type of door because that's what would have been on here. Alrighty, so I've got some oak here chosen, and I'm just going to laminate a panel together here. I got to run these through the planer because they're about 7/8 and they need to be 3/4, so I'll run those through the planer.
Well, the dark makes it.
Huh?
The maple is on the slat.
And there it is, all finished up. Whew, that was a doozy. We just got the beveled mirror in. It's been a month of waiting on this one. So a lot of work done before Christmas. Didn't make it before Christmas because of the glass. And now we just picked it up today and I popped it in, so it's all put together. Got a nice, beautiful beveled glass just to give it some class. And our mirror frame that we designed looks like it's supposed to be there, nicely curling into the original backboard of the other piece. And you remember all the damage that this piece had. was completely broken there at the hinge mounts. And we re-glued this little drawer as well and gave that a clean up. All the locks are working. All the hardware is looking good. I found a knob in my dad's treasure trove that is kind of like the escutcheons, and it's a swivel type of lock here. So it just comes in and sits right in a slot inside the door there. We got the inside cleaned up and finished in here, so it's a nice usable space. Here's our big blocks that we put in to give this piece more strength. So we did re-glue this entire case, and it's very nice and sturdy now. And our door here, we've got new glass in the door as well because the old glass was too thick for the frame, and we put new hinges on that door as well. And we'll open it up here. You remember inside of this one, we had our beautiful brick wallpaper, MacTech stuff. So we've got nice refinished shelves, and we've got them actually screwed into these pieces. I like it that way so it doesn't move around. And we had the glass siliconed into both the mirror and the door. I really like that way of doing things. It's sturdy. Some new things are better than old things. And again, our foot down there, and a nice cleaned up inside of the cabinet as well. So yeah, big, I don't even remember everything because it's been a little while. But I mean, this was a project that this piece was really beyond help. It was missing large amounts of things. Our new door down there was a nice addition. A nice breadboard type that would have been on here, kind of reminiscent of the drop down. So yeah, I think we've got it looking pretty great, and I'm really happy with the results, and I'm just about to call the customer. So thanks for joining me on this one, guys. It was a big one, but I'm really happy to get it back to a beautiful side-by-side secretary desk. And yeah, so if you want to support these restorations in this channel, and me just taking the time to film the things that we do here, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description below this video. And always thank you so much for your encouraging words and your comments and your tips and help. I really do appreciate my community. So thanks so much. Have a great day. Cheers.